The not-so-secret life of concubines in the Catholic Church. What if we told you that the holiest of men had the darkest of secrets? Yeah, the Catholic Church, a world of piety and devotion, has a not-so-secret underworld of lust and desire, full of shocking truths within the hidden lives of those who swore to serve God, but couldn't resist temptation. Hello friends. Well, if you often fantasize about the past and really want to know about the history of ancient civilizations, then you're at the right place. Welcome to Unthinkable Past, a channel better known for dishing up the outlandish ancient traditions of all times. From the times of the Apostles, the Catholic Church, being a pillar of hope for millions, has held celibacy as a sacred vow for its clerics, and violations of this duty have been severely punished. Still, the history of the Church is rife with stories of concubinage, mistresses, and sexual scandals that have tarnished the reputation of the Church to a world of desire and passion that clashed with the very ideals of the faith. Join us as we take you on a journey through the scandalous history of concubinage in the Catholic Church. We'll introduce you to the main players, the characters who live double lives, serving God by day and indulging their forbidden desires by night. It's a story that will shock you, surprise you, and leave you wondering about the true nature of those who wear the cloth. Let's get started with the on and off status of concubinage within the history of the Catholic Church. Well, concubinage refers to the state of a man and woman living together in illicit intercourse without any obligation arising from a vow, matrimony, holy orders, relationship, or affinity. According to the Old Testament, a legitimate spouse of inferior social grade or a bondwoman was, in fact, referred to as a concubine to indicate that she did not share the same rank or property as the principal wife. In Roman law, the concubine was recognized by law if there was no legal wife, and she was usually of a lower social grade than her husband. The Church once condemned temporary concubinage, but allowed permanent concubinage, which included the intention and consent of both parties to form a lifelong bond. The Council of Toledo allowed laymen to have a concubine instead of a wife, as long as they were content with one woman. But with the decline of knowledge of Roman law, legitimate concubinage fell into disuse, and concubinage became more and more a permanent illicit union. The Council of Trent renewed ecclesiastical penalties against concubinage and forbade all clandestine unions, thus forever doing away with even the appearance of legitimate concubinage. And the new marriage law of Pius X extends the prohibition against clandestine marriages to Catholics worldwide. Meanwhile, long-term and stable sexual relationships between clerics and women remained common across Europe during the Middle Ages, even after the Lateran Council decrees of the 12th century equated clerics' sexual activities with fornication and branded their wives concubines, where some Christian lay people were absolutely unconcerned about these arrangements. Certainly, episcopal courts and lay people tended to leave priests alone if they were involved in consensual sexual relationships with single women, saving their criticism for those clerics involved in more transgressive sexual relationships. In 14th century Teresa, for instance, officials of the bishop's court only prosecuted clerics who had sex with women who were very young or already married. Let's now see. How were these concubines chosen for the Catholic Church? Well, the practices varied over time and place. However, generally, clerical concubines were often unmarried women, usually chosen from the local community. Clerics pursued some of these women themselves, while in other cases families offered or, say, gifted them to the church. Some women may have also sought out relationships with clerics for personal reasons, such as financial support or social advancement. A point to be noted here is that the employment of concubines by clerics was not endorsed by the Church and was formally prohibited. But this ban was not consistently enforced, and numerous clerics persisted in maintaining relationships with concubines despite the potential for penalties. And, if we talk of their courting, the historical account suggests that clerics of the Catholic Church who had concubines may have courted them through gifts, letters, and personal visits. Some clerics may have provided financial support to their concubines and their families. In some cases, the relationship may have started as a consensual romantic or sexual affair, and then evolved into a more permanent arrangement. So, was it a life of leisure for these concubines? Well, it's not easy to make generalizations about the life of concubines within the Catholic Church, since it would depend on various factors, including the status of the cleric and the nature of their relationship. However, the life of a clerical concubine was definitely far from leisure. Typically, concubines were kept secret and hidden away from the public eye, and they did not enjoy the same rights and privileges as a legitimate wife. Plus, their children were often regarded as illegitimate. Furthermore, these concubines had always been at risk of being abandoned or mistreated by their clerical partners. For your information, let me tell you here that there have been historical accounts of homosexual relationships among clerics and other members of the clergy, including the appointment of so-called spiritual brothers who lived together and shared a bed. These relationships were usually framed within a context of spiritual love and devotion, but were viewed with suspicion and disapproval by the church hierarchy, and were often subject to condemnation and punishment. In the Middle Ages, though, some church officials actively sought to eradicate homosexual behavior among the clergy, viewing it as a form of sin and corruption that threatened the moral integrity of the church. However, despite these efforts, homosexuality and same-sex relationships continued to exist within the church. Moving on to some notable characters of clerical concubinage. Well, several prominent figures in the Catholic Church throughout history have been implicated in clerical concubinage. Pope Alexander VI, for instance, was known for his many affairs and children, including Lucrezia and Cesare Borgia, and this fueled criticisms of the Church. Pope Julius II also was rumoured to have had multiple mistresses and illegitimate children, plus St. Peter Damian, a critic of concubinage, himself had a sexual relationship with a monk. Then, St. Augustine had a long-term relationship with a woman named Faustina, and also had a son with her. Moreover, Cardinal Rodrigo de Luna had numerous affairs and still maintained his position of power. And, on the top, Pope Paul II had relationships with young men, whom he appointed to high-ranking positions within the church. Now, which clergy were born out of concubinage? Well, it can be challenging to definitively identify which specific members of the clergy were born from relationships with concubines, as such information may not always be documented or readily accessible. Yet, numerous historical accounts exist of clerics and other church officials who had children with their concubines, some of whom may have pursued careers within the clergy. Notable examples include the illegitimate son of Pope Innocent III, who went on to become a cardinal, as well as the son of a bishop in medieval France, who also became a bishop. Let's now check out the Church's response to clerical concubinage. Well, the Catholic Church has a long history of condemning the use of concubines by its clergy, although the exact penalties for such behaviour have varied over time. As in, during the early centuries of the Church, the penalty for a cleric who got engaged in sexual relations with a woman was typically excommunication, which involved expulsion from the Church and its sacraments. And the women found guilty were dumped, nowhere to be found again. Time to see notable concubines associated with the Catholic Church. Well, starting with Mariuccia, or Mariosa, a Roman noblewoman who was involved in a number of political intrigues during the late 9th and early 10th centuries. She was in fact serving several popes, including Sergius III and John X, and was even said to have given birth to John X's son, who later became Pope John XI. Vanoja de Cateni was another noblewoman from Rome who became the mistress of Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia, who later became Pope Alexander VI. She had 4 children with him, as mentioned earlier, including Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia. Then it was Giulia Farnese, an Italian noblewoman who was kept by Pope Alexander VI. She was known for her beauty and was sometimes called La Bella, the beautiful one. And Olympia Medelcini was the sister-in-law of Pope Innocent X and was said to have wielded significant power during his papacy. She was rumoured to be his concubine and was accused of using her influence to enrich herself and her family. Now please keep in mind this isn't an exhaustive list, and the historical accuracy of some of these accounts may be debated. Furthermore, the Church has taken a strong stance against extramarital sexual activity in recent centuries, and instances of concubinage have become increasingly rare. Anyway, let's look into their retired life. Sometimes the clergy may have supported their former concubines financially, or even established a household for them and their children after their relationship ended. However, this was not always the case. Many concubines were left without support. The post-concubinage life of a woman may have been affected by whether she had children with the cleric, and the level of shame and disapproval she faced in society due to her relationship with the clergy. Well, there you have it. We hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel without any delay. Make sure you turn on post notifications and also let us know in the comment section about your views on the lives of the concubines within the Catholic Church. Thanks for watching Unthinkable Past. Until the next time we meet, continue learning and stay healthy. Goodbye.